This is Matt Rosen, and this is The Grit Mindset with me, your host, Matt Rosen. The mission of The Grit Mindset is to inspire and empower our listeners by delving deep into the journeys of those who have faced significant challenges and emerged stronger. Through authentic conversations, we uncover the mindsets, strategies, and lessons that have propelled these individuals to overcome adversity and achieve success. My aim is to provide actionable insights and real-world advice to help our listeners cultivate their own grit and navigate their personal and professional lives with confidence and resilience.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of The Grit Mindset with Matt Rosen. I am your host and doing a solo episode today. We are right before Thanksgiving, so I thought I would do a fun Thanksgiving episode, tell a little bit of the origin story of Allata, and give thanks to everyone who's been part of that story. I also want to thank all the listeners out there to the Grit Mindset. Been getting a lot of great feedback and reviews. So thanks everyone who's been tuning in. This has been a fun journey. And so I know in some previous episodes, I've kind of alluded to my organization, but today I thought I'd tell the founding story and everything that went into it and all those that I thank for getting me to where I am. Because as many of you may know or not know, having success as an entrepreneur is a team sport. You have to have a lot of great supporters, cheerleaders, mentors along the way. And I'm lucky to have quite a few that I'll talk about as part of this story. So I'll kind of go back to the year 2007. I met two entrepreneurs who had started a consulting firm of their own. Actually, they started it in 2004, but in 2007, had the opportunity to join them at a firm called Pariveda. Two guys named Bruce Ballingy and John Humphrey. They had built a great firm, and I joined when they were about a $10 million firm, and they were very big on people growth and development. And up until that point, I had always been someone who had sold technology services, everything from e-commerce to networking infrastructure to CRM to some mobile development. And they were building a firm that was really focused on helping businesses solve their most difficult problems with technology. And that was everything from the strategy to the architecture to custom building solutions. And they hired lots of really brilliant kids out of school and put them on this awesome career path. And so I was really excited to join an organization kind of at a senior level and be part of its initial growth phase. And it was during that time there, I really got ingrained in delivering the solutions that I was selling, overseeing teams, mentoring people, getting involved in the finance and operations. And it was the experience I gained there that really got me ready to start my own firm. And I can think all the way back to 2009, wanting to kind of have my own thing and do my own thing. And in 2010, I got married to Stephanie, who's a OB-GYN. And so we kind of built a life thinking that, hey, at some point in time, I'm going to take that entrepreneurial leap. Let's kind of live within our means, live on one salary. That way, if one of us ever lost a job or something happened to one of us, it wouldn't be super stressful for the family. And so she was one of my biggest supporters in going off and starting my own thing. But we really had to wait until the time was right. So I spent 7 years at that organization, longer than anywhere else I'd ever spent before. In fact, the only place I've ever stayed longer is leading Allata, which is my current organization that I founded in 2016. But it was at Pariveda that I really learned what it meant to be, a senior executive and lead a large group of people. And, I have Bruce and John to thank for that. I have Hector Martinez, who ran the Dallas office for a number of years, and many great peers like Aaron Boswell and Jeff Hilliard. Phil Leary, who's now our COO, but had a lot of great people that I was able to learn from. And I will say, always enjoyed doing sales, still do that today. I'm not very strong at delivery. So one of the key things I learned is what I'm not good at. And so as I was building my own firm, there's a lot of things I'm not good at. So I had to hire a lot of great people that could fill those gaps. And we'll talk about them here in a minute. All right. So back to the story. I spent 7 years working at that firm, and towards the end, I had the opportunity when one of our VPs was out to play the role of leading our Dallas office. And I quickly learned that being an operational person was not necessarily that exciting to me. And so I started taking phone calls and learning about other opportunities. One of the great things about that organization was that everyone was compensated fairly, but the challenge was that if you outperformed that model, you didn't get compensated above and beyond your peers. So I realized that it was probably time for me to go on and start getting closer to doing my own thing. But Stephanie and I talked about it and didn't think I was quite ready, not just yet. Thought I was focused on some of the wrong reasons for wanting to start my own firm, things like, building wealth and making money. And when it comes right down to it, to be a really successful entrepreneur, you got to love what you do every day. And in the words of Zig Ziglar, who is from here in Dallas, is if you help enough people get what they want, then you'll get what you want. And I really wasn't focused on that. I was focused on building something for me. And so I realized that was probably not the right time to start my own firm. And so I took a phone call one day from a guy had been one of my staunchest competitors, who I have to thank for that phone call, Eric Winton. One of these days, Eric, hopefully you'll show up and get on the show. And so he called me up, and he had an interesting opportunity to go join a firm that had a really interesting software product, but was also doing consulting in the real estate space, which is an area I've spent quite a bit of time. And so, I joined forces with Eric, someone who I'd competed against at many different firms, and had always wanted to learn how he'd beat me a few times. And we worked really well together, and we began building a firm for a person who will remain unnamed to this day, who I can also be thankful for, but we'll get to that part of the story later. So we spent about a year really building up that firm, taking a software platform to market. But after we had a particularly bad quarter, the majority owner of that firm kind of showed his true colors. And unfortunately, he just was not the best person to work with when things were not going well. And we'll leave it at that. And Eric and I hopefully will tell that full story on another episode of The Grit Mindset. And so at the beginning of 2016, I knew it was time to start planning my exit path. And so I was able to figure out a way to exit that firm and take a client that had been with me since the Pariveda days. So in previous episodes, I have mentioned them, but I'll always be thankful for the Freeman companies. The Freeman family, Joe Popola, who's the CEO, Richard Moranville, who will actually be on the show next week, Michelle Johnson, who is the first guest on the show, Trish Webb, who will be on the show in 2 weeks. But they were great. At Pariveda, they were one of my largest clients. There was probably 50 people that worked at Pariveda that worked on the projects for Freeman, doing all sorts of really fun and exciting things. So I had spent about 20 months, working in this organization, which I've always lovingly referred to as dipshit partners, and realized that it was time to go off on my own. And so I'll never forget, I was sitting in the backyard with my wife and said, "Hey, I think we're going to have the opportunity to have Freeman as a charter client and to start our own firm. We need to come up with a name." And she looked at across our backyard, and we had a wall of bamboo. And she's like, "Why don't you name it after bamboo?" And so I started doing a lot of research on bamboo. And, bamboo is good luck in a lot of cultures. It's structurally stronger than steel, but very flexible. It grows faster than anything on the planet. And, I wanted to grow something fast, but I wanted to do it in the right way. I wanted to have a group of individuals that could stand strong alone, but could work better as a highly networked team. And if you look at bamboo, each stalk can be, kind of strong and individual looking, but it's like super highly networked underneath the ground. And so I started doing a lot of research, and I found a type of bamboo called the crook stem, which is also called the Allata. Well, that domain was taken, so I added an extra L, and Allata, the company, was born. And so I already thanked the Freeman family, but I want to thank some of the first 5 clients that were clients of the firm. Don McIntyre and Angela Spears, who are at the Animal Supply Company. We did a huge digital strategy for them, helping them become kind of an old school distributor to a vertically integrated pet food distributor. Really cool work we did. Justin Shannon ran the helm of that. He's not with us today, but he was a great early leader in the firm. I got a shout out to Andrew Brock and Matt Lineberger at Associa. They were another early client of the firm and are still a client today. Jason Chancellor and the folks at Brinks Home Security were also an early client. They'd been a client of mine many, many years past, and appreciate Jason giving us a shot. And Rama Vanjipuram, who's had his own firm, who actually came alongside me for a year to help out get that project going and down the road. And also, I've got a couple of great neighbors that reached out with early opportunities. Chris Kulak, who's now the CEO of Visiting Nurses Association and Meals on Wheels, as well as my neighbor, Leslie Mallinson, who's the VP of Marketing at Balfour Beatty. That was super risky, taking on building the website for Balfour Beatty, who's a huge construction company, for your next door neighbor. And so when we signed up with that, everyone on the team knew that, hey, if we screw this up, I'm basically living next door to the woman who's responsible for this website. So we ended up doing a really good job on that one. So I'd be remiss if I didn't start thanking a lot of the early elations that were part of the story. So Phil Leary was employee number one. He was our COO. He actually went and opened up our Boise office. Boise was a great city to us for a long time, and we still have a good-sized team up there today. There's David Romeo, who is the first that came over from Pariveda, and he's our VP of innovation today and helps lead our efforts across artificial intelligence and other innovative topics. There's Eric Jensen and David Brown, who both came from CB Richard Ellis. I'll always be thankful to the CIO that will remain unnamed that went to CBRE and wrecked what was an incredible IT organization by bringing in a bunch of yes people. But both Allata as well as Freeman were recipients of a lot of the great talent that departed along the way. There was a number of other great folks that came on board early days, people like Brett Grosvenor and Laura Hagan, who have gone their own ways. John Stalvey, who's still with us today, Matt Cope, Dylan Mark, Drew Giannotti, John Hesseltine. These are all folks that have kind of grown up as leaders in the organization and are doing great work for our clients across the world. I obviously thank the clients, thank the people. I also want to kind of get back to the story of early days. It was really a gritty time for us. It was myself working out of my garage. I had one contractor named Tad Jensen. He was actually contractor number one, doing work at Freeman. And I had some great early advisors that helped me as times got tough. As I'd left Dipshit Partners, I actually had to pay them a commission for quite a while, as well as I had to leave my equity behind. And so I made a huge investment in starting the company. But I had guys like Scott Levy, who's the CEO of Result Map, who's a great friend, great mentor, would go have a beer with me anytime I wanted and talk through how things were going. He also was the one that when I wanted to buy the domain for Allata, it was $2,000. And I was like, do you think I should put it on a payment plan just in case things don't work out? And he was like, no, man, just go ahead and buy it. I put it on layaway anyway, and just, I think paid $166 a month. And that was a good investment in that domain. Also, John Humphrey, who had previously been one of the founders of Pariveda, he was doing some consulting on his own, and he was a great early mentor, took my calls, even if it was at midnight as I was going through challenging times, and still a friend today, and is building his own firm, and actually was one of the first 10 guests on the Grit Mindset. Between him and Scott, they were always there, for a call, a coffee, a beer, whatever I needed as I was trying to get things up and rolling. Obviously, I've got two great friends, Ray Null, Jason Brumbelow. They'll be on the show at some point soon. They're also there when I needed a guy's trip or to get away from all the craziness that was building this firm. And obviously, thankful to my wife to helping me name the company, help set our mantra, family first, clients are king, take great care of our people. She and I kind of came up with that together because it was the firm we wanted to build was one that was really focused on hiring great people, taking care of them, putting them to work to do great work for our clients, and ultimately supporting our families. As we got further into the Allata journey, by setting that foundation of strong people growth as well as doing great work for our clients, we got to 100 people literally by, I think, the end of 2018. And, most companies hit inflection points at 25, 50, 100. We got over 100 and lots of things were breaking, and we had to bring in people as quickly as we could to help. I'd be absolutely remiss if I didn't thank Trish Webb, who was one of our first clients after a sabbatical. She joined, helped rescue a project or two, ran our Dallas office, and now is our chief strategy officer for the firm. And so super thankful that she came in during a time leadership was really needed to help kind of steer the firm in the right direction from a sales and client engagement standpoint. So everything was going great between Dallas, Boise, and Phoenix up until about 2020. I think everyone remembers what happened then. COVID hit, the bottom dropped out. For about 2 months, it was one of the scariest times we'd ever had, but everyone hung tight, stuck together. We talked with everyone every week. People like Phil, Trish, and that executive leadership team. I'm so thankful that they all stuck with it. And all of our clients, other than those that couldn't, either stuck with us or grew. And before we knew it, by 2022, we were off to the races again. We were very fortunate along the way to have the friends at Emerald, Pete Van Jarsfield, and Manish and Abhi. They're now part of our team. But when we couldn't find people fast enough to grow, they were able to supply us with folks out of 2 great offices in Pune and Vadodara over in India. Great team of folks over there. I'm super thankful for all them, because we never would have been able to achieve the scale that we have without having them as part of the team. In 22, we decided that we really wanted them to join the Allata forces. And so we decided as a firm that we were going to take on a capital partner. So through the help of my friend Greg Alexander, who I'm super thankful for, he introduced us to our banker Greg Fink at Equitech. They helped us put a book together on the firm, run a process, and ultimately evaluate both between strategic buyers, PE portfolio companies, and private equities. We ultimately determined our best path was to be a PE platform. And so we took on a strategic investment from CIBC Partners. So Mark and Andrew, if you guys are listening, you guys have been great partners through this entire process, doing exactly what you said you're going to do, providing experience to help us acquire companies, integrate them in, and continue to grow. Also through that time, I had a number of good friends through my YPO group, Marquez Bella, who's my forum mate, Grant Corman, Will Schramme. Those guys were super instrumental as we were going through the process, making sure I knew what I was getting myself into when I signed up as a private equity CEO platform company. And it has been an amazing ride through and through. And we continue to build the firm and grow today. The last couple years have been a little challenging as the world has tried to figure out how artificial intelligence is going to impact all of our lives. But I've got smart guys like David Romeo and Drew Giannotti figuring it out, charting a path, and helping our clients figure out how they're going to adapt the next wave of technology, which has got us busier than ever over the last couple of months. I think when it gets down to the bottom of why I started this, why I went on this journey, it was ultimately to build an organization that could grow beyond me, but stay focused to that core mantra. And I'll say it one more time, a family first, clients are king, and take great care of your people. We have truly lived that since day one. And even though we've gone through some times up and down, we have always done the right thing for everyone when times got tough and when times got good. And I'm thankful for the team sticking with me in the leadership through our trials and tribulations. We wouldn't be here without each and every one of you. Also, thank my family. Without my wife and her support, I might not have ever done this. For my 2 kids, for understanding when I have to travel and go with Taylor and Peyton. Yeah, but without having family, none of this is even worth it. All right, so as we close down this week's episode of The Grit Mindset, I'm thankful for Jordan for doing all the editing that he's going to have to do on this particular episode. I'm thankful for the Allata team, for all of our clients that took a chance on us, my YPO mates, our PE partners and investors, all the elations that have come from Argentina and India to be part of our team and one happy global family. Obviously want to thank my immediate family, my folks for having me, Richard and Randy, my brothers, one of which who is our VP of operations now, my sister. So Rob, Josh, and Alana, thanks for always being supportive and listening to the Grit Mindset and reading all my early posts and judging my early website and always being cheerleaders. Also, 2 other folks I wanted to call out was Paul Fletcher from the Freeman Companies. He and Trish were partners on my first project out there, so be remiss if I didn't mention him. And then thanks to Matt McGoy. He was an early guest on the podcast. He runs Spinnaker. They're one of our business partners. And in fact, I think I was sitting with him after a birthday thinking about starting my own thing. And he said, man, what do you have to lose? Just get out there and do it. And so thankful to my family and those friends, as well as everyone else I mentioned. I hope all of you out there listening in have a happy Thanksgiving. Be thankful for those friends and family around you. And until next week's episode of The Grit Mindset, this is Matt Rosen signing off. Stay gritty out there.